Al.
Yes.
Hey, it's Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio.
Yes. How are you?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Oh, all right. Just winding up some chores. What have you got for us today?
I've just got a warm welcome to you, and we're going to tape a little bit. We'll run it next week and talk about the show and blah, blah, blah. Sound good?
Sure.
Awesome. Great.
And what is the medium again?
This is Hawaii Public Radio, and you're on All Things Considered, which is a national public radio afternoon drive radio.
All Things Considered. I always liked that program. Who was the moderator for that?
There was Robert Siegel was the host for a long time, but he retired, and now it's, locally here, it's me who's the host.
Oh, but I mean the fellow that did it nationally.
It was Robert Siegel who retired.
God, he was amazing. As I recall, there was Siegel?
Yeah, Siegel. Robert Siegel, like the bird, Siegel.
There's another fellow that had an intellectual...
Well, there was, but I've only done it 10 years, so I'm no expert on the long history of it, but that's the show, and so...
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, man, have a lot of reach, and thank you so much for doing this, Al.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it.
And your first name was what again?
I'm Dave Lawrence.
Lauren?
Lawrence, like Lawrence of Arabia, or
gotcha. Oh, Lawrence, oh great.
Or Lawrence, that really rundown city north of Boston, whichever you want to think of it as.
Well, Dave, thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. And first, before we get into this amazing tour that you've got that's bringing you here to the islands, it's really, in a lot of ways, Al, a return, because Steve, the mystery emailer, is a blessing to have, because he emails me lots of information about the history of anybody we're going to have on the show, whether it's Dionne Warwick or Alice Cooper, whoever it is, he sends over the stuff. So
who is that?
His name is Steve, the mystery emailer, and
okay.
And so Steve emailed some stuff, and sometimes people remember these, and sometimes they don't. We'll just run a couple by you because it's fun to do. So June of 1963, did you come with the Beach Boys when they did the Honolulu Civic Auditorium?
I sure did.
And the most recent hit at that time was Surfin' USA. Also on the show, Dee Dee Sharp, Jackie DeShannon,
yep.
the Treniers. MC for the event was the late, great Tom Moffat. And you want to hear these ticket prices, Al? These are always the most fun.
About $1.50, weren't they?
It was $2.20, $1.45,
yep.
$1.25, and they even had a level at 90 cents.
Amazing.
No,
I didn't know the Treniers were on that show. I wish I had known that.
The Treniers, that's how you say it. Thank you.
Treniers, yeah, because they were in the movie Rock Around the Clock.
Wow.
That was one of my favorite movies of all time, because naturally, growing up.
Sure.
And,
that would make a lot of sense.
Black and white film about rock and roll, and the Treniers sang the funniest damn song I've ever heard, called "Jump Out of the Bushes." And I'll never. But I didn't know they were on the darn show.
That's a really cool thing. Well, that's why Steve's emails are priceless. And another part of that same show, which is unusual, it says here, in addition to their own performance, the Beach Boys were the backup band for Dee Dee and for Jackie.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
That's cool. Well, you and Steve are harmonious there.
Yeah, we went over to the other islands and backed her up.
Okay, cool. So there's a little, yeah, feel free to add stuff like that to his material. And then in July 3rd and 4th of 1964, now this one people can look at on YouTube, and it's remarkable to look at, the $1 Million Party. It was the Beach Boys, Peter and Gordon, Jan and Dean, the Kingsmen, the Rivingtons, Jimmy Clanton, Ray Peterson, the duo of Bruce Johnston and Terry Melcher. This was at what would be the Blaisdell Arena. MC again, the late great Tom Moffat. Ticket prices $3 and $2.
Gosh,
any memories?
For all that talent,
right? Gets a
man,
$2, right? Can you remember that show or no? Doesn't stick out.
No, the two shows kind of blend together, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
They're both wonderful.
Yeah,
experiences.
It happens like that. August of '67, you came back. Paul Revere and the Raiders, Bobby Gentry and Dino, Desi and Billy, also at the arena, and ticket prices $5, $4, $3, and $2. That's the neat thing, is you can see the prices keep going up. In fact, his next thing was one that was a real special one. I know. I'm going to go way out on a limb here. I know you're going to remember December 12th, 1986, and he says that the Beach Boys filmed their ABC TV special, The Beach Boys 25 Years Together, a celebration in Waikiki. You were on the lawn of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel before a crowd of about 2,000 people. I don't know how they jammed all that in there, but the guest artists on the show included Glenn Campbell, Ray Charles, Three Dog Night, Everly Brothers, Fabulous Thunderbirds, Belinda Carlisle. Memories.
Amazing.
Were you there? Do you remember anything about it? What can you
I
remember?
remember being on. I thought we were on a battleship, but maybe we didn't do. I guess we didn't do it on the carrier. You know what? It's funny. We were planning to do that show in San Diego on an aircraft carrier.
Oh wow!
But the promoter talked us into doing it in Hawaii. I guess on the lawn. Yeah.
All right, and then
I'll be a son of a gun. I'd forgotten about where we. I kept thinking we were on an air. It was on a very high stage. It was an aircraft carrier.
Well, with a career like yours, Al, I am sure there has been a time that you guys have been on an aircraft carrier. But for these gigs that you're doing now, coming back through town as we flash forward to current times, going to be at the Blue Note Intimate venue. Explain a little bit about the show, anything you want to tell us about what you're going to be playing and who you're bringing with you.
Well, that's very funny. Who am I bringing with me? I was just having that discussion with my wife this morning when I was told that the Honolulu Advertiser wanted to put me on the front page of their entertainment section, and I started to think, oops, I made a mistake, because I'm not bringing the Beach Boys with me. I'm not bringing the Brian Wilson Band with me, with whom I tour quite often. In fact, I just came home from the Christmas tour that we did.
Yeah, I remember seeing you with Brian here at the Blaisdell Concert Hall in 2017.
We have 25 people in that band traveling.
Yep.
With the Brian Wilson entourage. I'm bringing one person with me.
That's going to be an intimate show. Talk about it.
I'm thinking, I better rehire some people because it's a storytelling tour. It's not actually it's a mixture of stories and songs and the history of those songs, but not necessarily the performance that you would expect from the Brian Wilson Band or the Beach Boys, for that matter. So I want to make that perfectly clear, and I'll also inform the advertiser of that too, because I don't want people to be misled. But it's a fascinating show. I start from the very first song. I explain how we made that first song, and then with the Beach Boys, and then we evolve into the different eras, into the different kinds of music that we did over the time, over the last 50 years, 55 years now. My God, 57. I can't remember anymore. But it's really fun, but it's more of a storytelling event.
Well, that's a great thing, because storytelling is a great thing for radio. And take us back then to what I imagine helps to shape the beginning portion of the storytelling at the show. Hawthorne, California, Hawthorne High School. Explain how and when you first got into music and knowing these guys. Wow.
Well, you're gonna ask me. What you're asking me is to describe the show and the story behind it. So I'm not sure if I should give you all that information now, but I'll paraphrase for you. Brian and I were classmates, and we went to school together, not only high school but college, and we got reacquainted at our local junior college, El Camino College in Los Angeles, and I said, "Hey, Brian, you want to start a band? Hey, let's do something. I want to do some music." I think that was even it more precisely. You want to do some music? Do whatever that meant. And he said, "Sure." So I said, "Okay, well, all right. Why don't we steal away to the music room?" And we found an empty room with a piano in it, and that's how it all started.
And when you had been a child, were there critical times that somebody, maybe a parent or somebody older, turned you on to music? Do you have a first reflection of being a really young person, maybe way younger than that, and music making a dent in you?
Yeah, my mom got me a ukulele when I was 6, and I just started playing it. And from then on, I became enamored with, guitars and mandolins. My grandfather was a musician. He played every stringed instrument I think that ever existed, and so I inherited some of that interest in stringed instruments and clarinet. For some reason, I inherited a clarinet, which I was forced to play in my early years, and became really interested in folk music. in high school, Brian was fascinated by the Four Freshmen and high-lows and complex harmonies. I was more interested in songs with stories in them, and great singing, of course, that accompanied the songs. And so I became fascinated by the Kingston Trio and the Limelighters and the Weavers, of course, the granddaddies of them all, out of New York, the great Weavers, with Pete Seeger and Ronnie Gilbert and Eric Darling, and those are names nobody really probably even knows anymore. And just great, wonderful storytelling people. Anyway, so it evolved into a meeting Brian in high school, and at college, and then exploring the folk music of a different kind called surf music. And we actually that's how our band started, telling stories about that great event, that Southern California culture, which revolved around surfing.
And you mentioned some other instruments in that great chronology of your development as a person who loves music and then a person who's playing music. And you actually, talking about those early years and the development of that surf culture sound, you were playing bass on their first recording, Surfin', in 1961.
Now, how did you come by that information? Now you're spoiling the whole... that was supposed to be a surprise.
Well, when you mention the clarinet, it just leads into all the other neat things, because it just...
you did your homework.
I tried to do my homework, my brother, and it really makes you think about that sound. 1961. I mean, how about that? Here's another twist on that. Just the name, the Beach Boys. Do you remember who came up with it and how they came up with what would be? It sounds simple, but we were just having this conversation with Def Leppard a few months ago. It's amazing how names develop. What's the story there?
Yep. Well, we were initially the Pendletons was the name of our band initially, because we thought it would be really cool to have a uniform based around this woolen shirt called a Pendleton, which all the surfers wore down in California because it's cold. The water down there is cold,
right?
And so we were you needed something, and that was a surfer's uniform would be the Pendleton shirt, and so we call ourselves the Pendletons, and the record label hated the name because it didn't mean anything to anybody except
you,
the grunts,
Right.
So we or the Grammies, I guess would be the appropriate term. We called it the surfing term, meaning a novice at the time, because only one of us really surfed, Dennis. But at any rate, that the label said that's not going to work. How about the surfers? Yeah, that was their first thought, the surfers. There's a group in Hawaii called the Surfers. You can't do that. So I don't know if you even were aware of that, but so they juggled it around for a while, and then just before the record was pressed up, they said, "We're going to call you the Beach Boys."
Wow!
And a guy named Russ Regan was the head of A&R at the record company, and that was it.
That is amazing, and there you go. What a neat story that is, how something like that would develop. That is super, super cool. And your voice really has been, a lot of fans may know your name and some of the great parts of the songs that they remember for seeing you through the years, but also you have a huge role in one of their very, very biggest songs, a #1 hit that you sang lead on, Help Me Rhonda. Give us a little bit of, without taking anything away from our storytelling show that we're about to have here, but skirting around that, give us a little insight into it.
Well, I asked Brian about that one myself. Well, getting back to your question, Brian had dropped out of the touring group sometime earlier the year before. Dropped out, he just couldn't handle the pressure of, he had a nervous breakdown, quite frankly. And so we started spreading the vocals around. And it was quite smart, really, on his part. He gave Carl, for instance, the lead to Good Vibrations. He could easily have sang that himself, but that would have been cheating the fans. So Help Me Rhonda, same situation. Although his voice is a little lighter, probably wouldn't have, it would have been fine, but I had a little thicker voice, more direct, each one of us has a better sound better in a particular key.
That's right.
Say, and Mike handled the early stuff because, quite frankly, none of the rest of us had developed a lead singing voice to speak of. We weren't really familiar with that. We were a background singing background vocal group, and when we started, no one really. We just practiced harmonies. So the lead selection it just evolved as the touring evolved. Mike took the initial stuff with his kind of comical, kind of almost amusing voice, and not to take away from it, but it's just what it is. He has a very unique sounding voice, and the rest of us learned how to sing, quite frankly.
It's an amazing story, and that's cool how the dividing up is really. I've gotten the privilege of interviewing Brian 3 times in my life, and he's shared a little insight like that too, which is neat to hear about the intricacies behind something like that. The people hear the finished product and maybe they don't realize what went into it. When you were talking about how you guys evolved in terms of the vocal sound and stuff, one of the neat the era that you guys went through several different kinds of eras, let's say from the early 60s, mid 60s, then out of the 60s, late 60s, 70s onward. There were probably some memorable or unusual co-bills. I guess I say that because, for example, one that might bring something to mind. I remember you guys shared the stage and even sat in with the Grateful Dead on a show. When you think of the times that you guys got challenged by maybe interacting or working with other artists who had a different sound, but maybe were also well known, anything come to mind about the lessons learned or maybe those experiences, how they shaped you?
Well, to be honest with you, we didn't really interact with anybody. That was simply a promotion. By the Bill Graham promotion to close the Fillmore East. So we did a concert, and after our concert, we drove over there and just joined them on an encore, and never really even met the guys.
Wow! Oh, that's how that show
went. And they knew
Help
Me Rhonda. They knew some really basic stuff from our set, and basically they played on our stuff. And because jamming with the Grateful Dead would have been impossible, if you think about it, because unless you really know their stuff. And I didn't. Yeah,
there's a tape. There's a great recording, actually, of that. So how about when you did that thing with the Philly and National Mall in 1985, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin with you? Was that a similar thing where somebody just set it up, or how did that work out?
Yeah. Well, Mike actually organized that one. He had a foundation called the Love Foundation.
Huh.
And he organized that whole show. So you'd probably have to ask him.
Well, it's just neat to see you standing there next to Jimmy Page.
Yeah, amazing. But there again, it was more of it was everyone had their own role to play in that show. We didn't really jam. There was any to speak of. I mean, it was really based around most of the music was our music. Quite frankly, of course it is. I mean, it was about the Beach Boys on the Mall, with guest stars, and so they would do some of their work, and everybody would have a moment in the spotlight.
Well, you've had an illustrious career to get to also with Brian just a couple years ago have Jeff Beck. I see you standing next to him, so I've seen these videos where you're standing next to 2 of the biggest British guitar players of all time.
I know. Yeah, he tried to give me a couple of. He showed me a couple of really quick guitar things on the guitar, and thought I should learn those. Of course, I instantly forgot them.
Free lessons from Jeff Beck, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, hey, this will sound great, he said. It looks really hard, but it isn't. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay. Of course, we were trying to get ready for our own tour, and we were just getting to know each other a little bit. But it was nice. It was fun to watch him play and do an encore with him. We actually did do a collaboration with him at the end of our show, which was nice. We did Surf's Up. He played Surf's Up on the guitar, and we sang some parts of the parts. So that was really nice. He's an amazing player.
You really got to work with on your 2010 solo debut. That also, I think, says a lot about your career. It's got Brian on there, Carl posthumously. It's got Bruce Johnson, David Marks, Mike Love, plus Glenn Campbell, Neil Young, Steve Miller.
Oh, I know.
Jerry
It's
Beckley, Dewey Bennell of America, Flea from the Chili Peppers.
I know.
Alec Baldwin, the actor. What would talk about putting that together? Like, what made you want to bring all those cats to the table?
I don't know. I just did. I just had some ideas, and I thought certain people would sound good on certain songs. Steve Miller, I wanted to have him on Help Me Rhonda because he had a certain kind of a bluesy voice.
Yeah, yeah.
He loves the blues, and Flea was my next door neighbor at the time, and he generously offered to play the bass, and so it was kind of, I just got lucky, quite frankly. Just you get to know people over the years, and if you have a good relationship with them, Neil felt very almost obligated to help me on a California Saga to sing lead on the second verse on Saga. So, yeah, it was really nice, man. It was, and Steve Stills, same thing. I mean, the America guys, we love those guys. We still talk with them on the phone and correspond. And they sang one of my favorite songs called San Simeon on the album. It's beautiful, beautiful work.
And was it recorded with you guys all in the studio together? Okay, great. That's cool.
Except for Flea, he overdubbed his stuff.
And that's Glenn Campbell. How about
Campbell came down and just sang. He was great. He just sang his heart out on the title song, and he made it better just by being on it. He just put his stamp of approval. You know what I mean? That you try to explain to someone how something goes, and then they take it another level that you never even imagined.
Right, right. You went way back with him too, though, huh? I mean, that was
he was a Six Beach Boy for a while.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
He bailed Brian out during that nervous breakdown period. He took Brian's role over, and in fact, if I had my video equipment with me, we don't this time because the Blue Note doesn't have that kind of a medium there.
Right.
But so unfortunately, we don't have any testimonials. Hopefully, maybe next time, if we're so lucky, they could put some screens in, and we can. Glenn does a beautiful testimonial about that particular becoming a Six Beach Boy. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I interviewed Glenn on his final tour. He came here in 2012. He talked about that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I have a great segment all about him sitting in with you guys. He even sings a little bit of he sings a few different Beach Boys tunes just quickly in the interview. It gives you chills now when I stop and think about it. No, it's great that you guys have really done some remarkable things, and it's got to be a very satisfying life for you. As we go to wrap it up, when you think about these, with a life like this and a lot of roads you've crossed, probably a lot of lessons you've learned, both hard and easy ones. When you think of those remarkable gigs that you've gotten to do through the years and some of these characters, especially the ones that we don't have anymore, do you have any reflections on the Wilson brothers that we don't have anymore when you think about Carl and Dennis and the things that you learned or shared with them?
Well, yeah, they were a lot more talented than I thought. They're far more gifted, like their older brother. They had that musical gift. And I didn't recognize it, though, because Brian was so overwhelmingly, he kind of cast a long shadow over all of us in that respect. But then when Brian began to recede a little bit, his brothers came to the forefront and really, really created some amazing music. And I'm still amazed. In fact, we do. Well, I think we were going to do one of Carl's songs with Brian, but it never materialized, called Long Promised Road. That is just a masterpiece of... we do one of his songs. What I'm saying, Marianne, what is the song we do with Carl's? Great. Feel Flows, it's called, from Surf's Up.
Nice.
Great song. It's so amazing. Anyway, these guys, the Wilson brothers. Amazing, and then we the three of us wrote a song together called, which I'd like to do it live someday if I could, but there's so many things that we haven't been able to do live. But it's called "It's About Time," and it's a great little rock and roll song that Dennis put together, and with Carl, and I just did some lyrics, but it's really good.
Well, we'll be looking forward to the shows. It's Al Jardine, and he's been our guest today. He's got the gigs coming up Saturday and Sunday, January 19th and 20th.
With my son, Matt Jardine.
And I remember, Matt, you brought out with you at the Brian Wilson show in 2017 over at the Blaisdell Concert Hall.
Okay, well, that's the sound you're going to get then, because he has captured the magic.
And he really did, and Brian was saying so on stage, too.
Oh, did he?
At the show you guys did together, I'm saying, in 2017, Brian said really nice stuff about him.
Well, that's really good. But it's true. So we're gonna attempt to do these wonderful songs, and you'll hear the songs, but you just won't hear all the harmonies. But you'll get an idea. It's more like a duet. Like, for instance, if you're coming to see the Everly Brothers, right, or something like that. So it's just going to be great, and then we'll have a couple of guitars, tambourines, maybe a little kick drum, because he can play percussion to accompany us on some things, and I'll have my acoustic and electric, and it'll be nice. It'll be fun.
It's a nice venue for the strip down thing, Al. Everybody's doing it there, so don't have no fear, because a lot of bands have just come through there. They do the exact same.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Rick Springfield just did the same thing. Richard Marks did that.
Oh,
trying to think
good.
of some of the other cats that are
just a couple of them.
Yeah, just by themselves, even.
Oh, that's even better. Thank you for reassuring me.
A lot of cats are doing that sort of thing there, and sometimes it can be like you're saying. Oh, David Crosby did it that same way there.
Just by himself.
Yep, just by himself. And
thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna, so just you'll be right in the pocket. It's a nice kind of venue too, because it's small. It'll feel perfect. It's the right size for this.
It looked kind of big when I saw the pictures on the on the website. It looked like a cavernous place with 300 seats.
But Al, when you think back to playing the National Mall in D.C., this is not going to be big. This is going to be tiny. Don't worry, it's going to be real.
All right. Well, I just want.
You've had the experience. You've had the experience, so it's going to.
Well, thank you, Dave, for your confidence.
You're welcome, and I'm sure you'll feel it when you're up there on stage.
Aloha, everybody. It's Al Jardine. You may remember me from the Beach Boys or the Brian Wilson Band. But right now, you can also count me as a fan of public radio, and this station, Hawaii Public Radio. You're tuned to my buddy, Dave Lawrence. All things considered, and we need you to put 4 quarters on the meter now. Do your part, and know we're grateful.
Perfect, brother. Giving you a hug, a high five. I hope you had fun today, and I'm really looking forward to these shows. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Say hi, Dave.
I certainly will. And maybe I'll see you at the show. I'll get you to record a little thing while we're there.
Okay.
If that's not a hassle.
Hey, thanks for the confidence builder.
Oh, you're welcome. You're going to own that thing, brother.
Thanks.
You are going to own it.
Thank you.
God bless, Al. Stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Aloha, brother.